Our topic today is measuring the ROI of online reputation management. I'm Danielle Boone. I'm the VP of Client Services at Go Fish Digital. We are an Agital company, and I'm excited to be hosting the webinar today. Managing and measuring online reputation is obviously very important to a digital marketing strategy, but what we hear from a lot of our clients is they just don't know where to begin. And so that's where we're hoping to give you all some insights and help today. We are going to save time at the end for questions. So as things come up, feel free to drop those in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we get to as many of those as we can at the end. Sometimes they'll get lost in the chat if you put them in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on it, but the Q&A box is easier for that. But we're excited to know sort of like what's top of mind for you guys in this space, and any questions that come up as we're going through today's presentation. I am really excited to introduce our speaker, Anna Gorelick. Anna leads our online reputation management team here at Go Fish Digital. She has worked with a huge range of businesses, from small businesses all the way up to enterprise. And one thing that I think Anna does really well is making ORM clients feel the impact of the work that we're doing and the ROI, and sort of explaining how that works in reality. So I'm really excited to see what she has to present today, and I think that's what I hope you'll get out of this as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to you, Anna, to get started.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really thrilled to have you all here for this discussion and talk about one of the most important elements of our brand's digital presence, online reputation management, or as we'll often refer to it, ORM. So whether you're joining us from a small business or a large enterprise, managing how your brand is perceived online can be the difference between winning customers over or losing them to competition. So let's start by reviewing what we're going to cover today. We're going to start by defining online reputation management and what we consider to be the three primary components of ORM. Then we're going to discuss measuring ORM and the importance of being able to measure your brand's ORM over time. Next, we're going to go through step-by-step creating a scorecard to monitor your brand's reputation, which will help you audit your brand's current performance. And finally, we'll talk through how you can use this scorecard to track your brand's ORM over time, as well as some practical tips and monitoring tools that you can use to do this as well. So by the end of our session today, I hope that you'll have some practical tips and tools to help monitor, influence, and elevate your brand's online reputation. And more importantly, a clear strategy to turn these insights into action. So whether you're looking to get ahead of potential issues or improve your search rankings or simply build more trust with your audience, you are in the right place. So before we jump into defining ORM, let's start off with a quick question for you all, a quick poll here. Are you currently managing your brand's online reputation? So you'll see the poll pop up on your screen with a few options to select from. We have, yes, we have a dedicated strategy in place. No, it's yes, but it's ad hoc and not formalized. No, but we're planning to start soon. Or no, we don't have a focus on online reputation management yet. So I'd love to just get a sense of, again, who's listening in today, how much ORM you might already be familiar with, or how this might be new to you. So yeah, thank you guys for answering. It looks like most folks do have a ORM strategy in place if you have not started yet. So that's good to see that we have some foundation here. And if you haven't started online reputation management yet, I'm really glad to have you here as well, because I think the tools and the session that we're going to cover today will give you a really good starting place to inventory your ORM and give you a good place to start and how you might want to think about your online reputation management. All right, we'll leave this up for just a few more seconds. If you haven't answered yet, feel free to get your response in, and we'll close this out in 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you all for responding to that. All right, so let's dive in first by defining online reputation management. What do we mean when we talk about ORM? So ORM refers to the practice of monitoring and influencing how your brand is perceived online. A big component of ORM is how your brand shows up in search results. When a user searches for your brand name, Do they find positive content in reviews or negative content in reviews? It also involves tracking mentions of your company across social media, review platforms, blogs, and news outlets, and taking action to respond to both the positive and negative feedback that you're seeing. In today's digital world, your online reputation can be one of your most valuable assets or your biggest liability. A single negative review or piece of misleading information can spread quickly, which is why it's really important to stay proactive. And it's also important to remember that ORM isn't just about damage control. Oftentimes people think of ORM in a crisis situation, but it's really about more than that. It's about building trust, transparency, and credibility with your audience. So another quick question for you all in our second poll here. If you're shopping on, let's say, Amazon, what product rating would make you hesitant to buy? So we've just launched this second poll here, and you can select kind of at what threshold would you be hesitant to buy on Amazon? 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 star, 1 star, or no reviews. So yeah, go ahead and put your answers in here and let me know when do you start to question your purchasing decision when you're shopping on Amazon. Thank you all for responding. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, no reviews. Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I'll leave this up for just a couple more seconds. Let's close this out in 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you guys for responding there. So yeah, I wanted to use that poll to talk to you about why ORM is important. A good reputation can really help you stand out from competitors, while a poor reputation can lead to a decrease in sales, decreased visibility, and just general damage to your brand long term. A few specific reasons that we know ORM is so important is that we know reputation can influence purchasing decisions. Actually, a data study done by our team here at Go Fish revealed that dropping from a 4-star to a 3-star review can result in a 70% decrease in consumer trust, which directly, corresponds to what we just saw in the poll that you guys filled out as well. When we get from a 4-star to a 3-star, we see a pretty significant decrease in trust, which can directly impact, purchasing decisions and our bottom line. We also know that reputation is really important for visibility in search engines. So Google and other search engines prioritize well-reviewed and well-trusted brands, and your reputation can impact your search engine rankings, which can also influence how easy it is for potential customers to find you. And finally, crisis management. A thoughtful ORM strategy helps us respond and mitigate to crises in real time. And a well-handled negative review can even turn into a positive sentiment or customer experience. So crisis management is certainly a part of ORM, but it's not the only part of ORM. And establishing a thoughtful ORM strategy up front can really make any sort of crisis situation that your brand might be in a lot easier. So let's talk about what we consider to be the key components of ORM. ORM can mean a lot of different things. People might define it in different ways. It has impact on a lot of different parts of the organization and even within the marketing function at an organization. But at Go Fish, we consider 3 kind of key core parts of ORM. First is search results. So search results is when someone searches for your brand or variations of your brand name. So for example, a query like your brand name plus reviews, they'll see results ranking for your brand and for these queries. And it's really important to understand the sentiment of what they're going to take away when they see these results, because users are starting to form an impression about your brand based on what's ranking on the search results page before they even click through to your site or any site about your brand, simply just by the content and the results that are showing on that search results page. They're starting to form their perception of your brand. So important areas of your search result to consider and ask yourself are you seeing your own sites and profiles ranking highly for your branded search results? Do positive reviews appear prominently, or are there negative reviews or content ranking instead? It's also important to survey any neutral content. So content that may be not about you or your brand specifically can also rank highly for your branded terms, but that can actually be taking the place of more positive content that could improve your brand's perception or visibility. And finally, if you've had any issues with the negative content or press about your brand published in the past, it's really important to understand how that's ranking for any branded terms, where that's appearing, and how users might be finding it when they are searching for your brand. The second component here is online reviews. So online reviews are really important to our reputation. And oftentimes, one of the first things that we think of when we think of online reputation management. And oftentimes there's also overlap between our online reviews and our search results in terms of sentiment and reputation, because a lot of times review profiles show up pretty prominently based on your brand or your industry. Some review platform sites like Google and Yelp are really important across, most industries. But depending on your business, there also may be other specialized review sites that might be even more impactful. Some of these that we often work with would be sites like BBB, Trustpilot, Consumer Affairs, or Glassdoor. Or sometimes there's even like industry, more niche sites specific to your industry specifically that might be important to understand. So it's really vital that you know what review platforms your brand is present on, and you're regularly monitoring your brand's rating and reputation on each of these platforms. And in addition, you'll want to think about how you're handling reviews on each of these platforms, because each has different guidelines for requesting, responding to, and flagging reviews. And so understanding how each different review platform is contributing to your overall reputation is really important, and also can help you improve your star rating on the most important platforms. And finally, social media. Social media is certainly the most real-time component of reputation. Customers can share their brand experiences and interact with brands publicly across platforms. And these can have, significant influence both on how those that you're interacting with are receiving your brand, as well as how others perceive the interactions that your brand has with customers or potential customers. So it's important that you monitor brand sentiment where users are having these conversations on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, Reddit, and YouTube. It's important too, especially because social media is so real time. A post that might start off as a positive or a neutral sentiment could quickly turn negative based on responses or comments or shares. So it's really important to be engaged with how your brand is being discussed on social media as a part of your ORM strategy. So now that we have an understanding of what is ORM and what do we consider the key components of ORM, let's talk about how we can evaluate and manage your brand's reputation. And I recognize that this can feel really subjective or squishy when we're talking about what is our reputation? How do we measure that? How do we know if it's getting better or worse over time? But at GoFish, we take a really data-driven approach to all of our services, and our approach to ORM is no different. We've developed some different strategies and tools to take a very data-driven approach here, and I'm excited to share one of these tools with you all today. So let's start by looking at this graph here. This is measuring a brand's reputation that we work with week over week for the last 4 years. So this is pretty cool that we've been able to track on a quantitative scale how this brand's reputation has performed for 4+ years. And a few interesting, notes that we can gather from looking at this chart. For one, we can see temporary blips, things moving up or down week to week that could correlate to certain issues, or could also be used to correlate to any changes in sales or business outcomes that this brand might see. Second, we can use this to see how their investment in ORM has really benefited them over time. So you can see that when we started working together, their score was at just below 70, and even dipped as low as 50 within the first period of us working together. But more recently, for the last 2+ years, we've continued to see their score consistently in the upper 90s, and really showing a strong return on investment from their efforts across search results, reviews, and social media. So how do we accomplish this? If you want to be able to, 4 years from now, show how your brand has performed online, how are you going to do that? So I'm going to walk you through exactly how we accomplish this today by building a scorecard. So we're going to walk through and build an example scorecard together. And my hope is that you can use this lesson to put together a scorecard for your brand or work with our team here at Agital to help you with that too. So let's go back to and pretend we're in school for a minute. And we're going to create a report card of sort for our reputation management. So we're going to have a maximum score on our report card of 100 points. And if our brand has perfect, fully positive sentiment across all of the different areas that we're tracking, we would earn a perfect 100. But any areas of negative or neutral sentiment that we're tracking will take away from our total score. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is think back to the categories that we defined earlier, search results, reviews, and social media, and determine how many points we're going to allocate to each of those categories, because that's ultimately what's going to make up our scorecard. So one way to do this is by understanding the volume of interaction that you get within each area. So for example, how many monthly searches does your brand name get versus how many review sites are you active on and how many average reviews are you getting per month on each of those sites versus maybe how many social media mentions you're getting in a given month, kind of weighting the difference of each of these areas for your brand specifically, and then using that to allocate your 100 points. But for the case of this example today, let's pretend that we are a retail brand and we primarily sell through e-commerce, but we also have several brick and mortar locations, and all three components are really important to our brand here. And so to develop our scorecard, we're going to kind of assess the volume and essentially break down our 100 points in this way. We're going to allocate 30 points to our search results, 50 points to our online reviews, and 20 points to our social media. And if you're not sure where to start, this breakdown is generally a good starting point for your brand to work with. And then you can always tune up or down different areas, depending on how your needs or depending on like what you're seeing for your brand specifically. But if you're not sure where to start, use this as a starting point and then fine tune from there. So we have kind of our 100 points broken out, but we need to get a little more specific here. We need to understand exactly what we're going to track within each area, within each of these areas, and how we're going to measure it, week over week or month over month. So let's dive in a little bit more specifically to go through each category. So ultimately, we'll want to build a sort of list like this, where we go through each category and define for each of the three categories here, what are we tracking within each? So let's start with search results. For search results, we're going to determine which keywords are most important for us to be tracking. So almost always your brand name should be included here and should be the most important item in this list. But there's maybe other variants or modifiers that are also important to track. So for this example, we're going to track the main keyword as their brand name, but we're also going to track brand name reviews. Since the brand name receives more search volume, we're going to give that one 20 points, and the reviews query, we're going to give 10 points because it receives less volume comparatively. So we've allocated our 30 search points across those two queries. Again, you can have more or less queries here depending on what's important to your brand. For online reviews, this section for this client is making up the largest portion of their scorecard, and that's because they have presence on several review sites, including BBB, Trustpilot, reseller ratings, as well as their brick and mortar stores have Google and Yelp profiles that are important to them to maintain their overall online reputation management. And they also have a page on their own site where they're collecting reviews that's important and ranks well for their brand as well. So we look at the 50 points, and based on factors like review volume, review velocity, and where these sites are ranking in their search results, we break down the 50 points in this way. So you can see BBB has 10 points, their website has 6 points, Trustpilot and reseller ratings each have 5, and then Google and Yelp for the 3 brick and mortar locations are assigned 4 points each. And then finally, social media. So for this client, we are just allocating 20 points to their social media sentiment score. We generally find that it makes sense to aggregate depending on the client and just have kind of like one sentiment score across platforms. However, you could certainly break this section down by social media platform if certain platforms are more important or, influential in your brand or industry. So now we've broken down our 100 points. And now we need to think about how are we actually going to track each of these items? So we know we're tracking our search results, but how do we score our search results? What does that look like? How do we, turn that into a number? So for search results, we recommend tracking a SERP sentiment score, which GoFish has actually published a unique formula here to calculate sentiment score based on ranking, position, and sentiment in the SERP. So I'm not going to go into great detail on this today, but I am going to launch a poll quickly. If you are interested in us sending you the article on how to calculate your brand sentiment score, go ahead and respond to the poll that we just launched here. Yes, send me the article, and we'll be sure that we follow up with you after the webinar today to get this over to you so that you can see exactly how you can calculate your SERP sentiment score for the different queries that you add to your scorecard. I'll leave this up for just a few more seconds. Thanks to everyone that's responded so far. We'll definitely look forward to sending that over to you. And we'll go ahead and close this one out in 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you all. So for your search results, the maximum, score that you're going to be able to earn on this SERP sentiment is 100. So this is what we're going to refer to as our actual score. And for search results, we recommend using the SERP sentiment score, which is 100. Next, for online reviews, so most review sites are going to operate on a 5-point scale or a star rating scale. Some sites may go up to a scale of 10. We generally see this more often in like industry specific sites. Sometimes they're on a scale of 1 to 10 rather than 1 to 5. And sometimes we also see things on like a letter rating scale rather than a numerical scale. BBB is a good example of this, where you get a letter grade as opposed to a number grade. So for each of the sites that you've added into your reviews portion of your scorecard, you're just going to go through and look at the maximum rating or points that you can earn for your reviews on that site, and that's going to be your maximum actual score for that row. For a site like BBB that uses a letter scale rather than a numerical scale, we just recommend converting the letter scale into a numerical scale. In this case, a 5-point scale based on the letters. And then finally, for social media, most social listening tools will give you an assigned sentiment score. And again, generally these operate on a scale of 0 to 100, but based on the social listening tools that you're using, you can assign the actual maximum actual score here. But generally it's based on kind of the ratio of positive to negative sentiment in the mentions of your brand name. And that will yield a score of 0 to 100. So now we have our maximum actual score. Now we're going to get into a little bit of math here to say, okay, we know what we're measuring, we know how we're measuring it, and we know how many points we can earn, if we have a perfect score in each of these areas. So how are we going to kind of tie all of this together and know our score that we can track again over time? So we're going to bring in what we're calling our maximum adjusted score here. So these are the original point assignments that we gave to each of these rows. And this is going to become our maximum adjusted score. So we have our maximum actual score. That's what we're actually measuring for each of these areas. And our maximum adjusted score, which is the total number of points that we can earn on our scorecard if we have a perfect score here. And so now a little bit of math will come in for us to essentially say, okay, how do we take the maximum actual score and translate that to the maximum adjusted score? And you only have to do this once, so if it sounds a little complicated, don't worry. Once you set this up, your tracking, week over week or month over month will be all set and very, very easy to follow. So let's go through a couple of examples here. So for our brand name, our maximum actual score is 100 points, and our maximum adjusted score is 20 points. So we're going to multiply the actual score that we receive by 0.2 to calculate our total for the scorecard. Another example here for Google and Yelp. So for Google and Yelp, we're measuring on a 5-point scale, but we have a maximum of 4 points available on our scorecard. So we're going to multiply our actual score that we receive by 0.8, and that's going to calculate into our adjusted score. And so now, once we have kind of the formulas laid out, This is what it would look like for like an actual date that you might be measuring your score for. So for this brand, we'll go through and we'll calculate the actual score in the first column here for each of the items. So this would show their current SERP sentiment score, their current rating on each of these platforms, and their current social media score. We would use the adjusted score column with the calculation that we just created. Again, if you're working in Google Sheets or Excel or something similar, you would just plug in the formula here to get your adjusted score. And then we're going to add each of those subcomponents together. So 27.5 for our search results, 38.96 for our reviews, and 16 for our social media. And that's going to give us a total score of 82.46 for this day for this client. So one more poll for you here before we wrap up. I would love to know if you would like our ORM experts here to help create a personalized scorecard for your brand. So we'll go ahead and launch this poll now. And if you're interested in our team helping you out with creating a scorecard for your brand, maybe determining what should be tracked or how many points to allocate to each section, our team would love to set up time to learn a little bit more about your brand's needs and dive into the different areas of reputation that are important to your brand. So let's go ahead and fill out the poll here. You can say yes, please. If you know you're interested, if you're on the fence, click maybe let's talk first. Happy to have a conversation and tell you a little bit more about what we can do for you or what we've done for other clients. Or if you're not interested right now, you could say not right now. That's okay. I still hope that you were able to learn something from this exercise that we went through here today. But if you're on the fence at all, or you think that it might be helpful to have a conversation, I'd love to talk more with you and get to know your brand and see what different components might be really impactful to measure with your brand specifically. So we'll leave this up for just a little bit longer. If you haven't responded yet, go ahead and click one of those options for us. And we'll go ahead and close this out in 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you everyone for responding and participating in that. I'm really looking forward to everyone that said yes, getting to talk with you guys and looking at building a scorecard together. So now you're ready to start tracking. The last thing that we'll want to do here is determine our tracking frequency. So the client I showed you at the beginning, we do weekly tracking for them. But typically would recommend, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. If you're not sure where to start, monthly is always a good option to start with. I think monthly is generally good for most brands, but you can always adjust up or down as needed. So if you're finding that things are changing more often, taking big leaps between each month, you might want to track more frequently and go up to weekly. Or if you're finding that things are not changing a lot month over month, or maybe your brand has fewer resources to devote to something like this right now, you can track quarterly and at least still have kind of a pulse point on how things are trending over time. So if you haven't dedicated resources to online reputation management before, or if you have dedicated resources to online reputation management before, because I know a lot of you have, but maybe you don't have a way to measure it. Maybe you are doing different ORM activities or kind of keeping a pulse on how your brand appears online, but you don't really know how to say, like, are we improving over time? This is a really great exercise because one, it helps really inventory all the important components of your online presence and reputation. It also helps you establish a nice baseline and benchmark to quantify your reputation and share with your team and your executives that you can track against and measure at regular intervals. And then also, I think it does a really nice job showing you where the biggest areas of opportunity are. So do you need to focus more on your search results, or do you need to focus more on your online reviews? Putting together a scorecard like this can really open your eyes to where to best focus those resources. So before we wrap up, I'd like to just give a few final kind of tools and tracking methods that I think are helpful as you maintain a pulse on your brand's reputation. Just a few things to consider if you aren't using these types of tools yet. They definitely are really important in helping to track and maintain your scorecard, as well as just kind of keep a pulse on your brand between different times that you're measuring. So Google Alerts is a really simple but powerful tool. that enables you to see when your brand is mentioned online, so you can set up real-time alerts and receive new mentions or new content about your brand that can help you address any potential issues between your regular weekly or monthly monitoring to stay ahead of any urgent or newsworthy developments or things that might be appearing in your search results. Also, review monitoring. So keeping up with customer reviews is really important for your brand's perception, as we mentioned before. And it's really important to manage reviews as they come in and respond to both positive and negative reviews. Responding to all reviews really shows that you value customer feedback, and review monitoring tools can be set up to alert you in real time when new reviews are posted and, again, allow you to act quickly. These tools are also really great for identifying more macro trends over time, common themes and feedback that might be received about your brand or your product, whether it's praise or criticism. And those are really nice to take back to different parts of the team internally, whether that be, product strategy or customer service, to adapt strategy accordingly. Social media monitoring. So again, this is going to be really important for the social media part of your scorecard, but tracking social media conversations on platforms like Facebook, X, Reddit help you understand public perception of your brand, and also empower you to engage with the audience on these platforms as necessary. And again, really being proactive here and addressing any areas of concern or feedback publicly, but also taking the time to take more sensitive discussions offline and protect your brand's reputation when those issues might come up. And lastly, sentiment analysis. So we also really recommend regular sentiment analysis, which is particularly important when we're thinking about search results. Beyond just tracking where our brand profiles rank in the search results, it's important to understand how that sentiment evolves over time. So, for example, maybe a negative article might be published about your brand and could be updated at a later date to reflect a more neutral or positive stance. We'll want to adjust the sentiment for that ranking article over time, as well as, maybe there's a thread in a forum that might have started as a positive thread, but with ongoing engagement could have turned more negative. And so if that's the case as well, we also want to adjust that to make sure that that's something that we, don't want to see showing as high in the search results. So thank you guys for your time today as we wrap up today's session. I really hope that you're feeling empowered with practical tools and strategy to manage and enhance your brand's online reputation. I know we've covered a lot of ground in terms of understanding key components of ORM and building your own scorecard to track and measure performance over time. So thanks again for your time today, and I look forward to answering your questions and connecting with you all after the webinar.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. That was such a great presentation. I thought the detail of kind of walking through the scorecard is a big game changer. So thank you guys all for attending and joining us today. I hope you found this session valuable and kind of got the same takeaways that I did. We've got some time to answer questions, so please pop your questions into the Q&A and we can give you responses on those while we're here. Obviously, we're happy to chat after as well. While you're doing that, I do want to take a minute and just highlight our free weekly newsletter that Go Fish puts out. It's called The Splash, and basically it summarizes all of the digital marketing news for the week into a super digestible, like skimmable email that takes like 5 minutes to read. So use that QR code and you can sign up for that free newsletter. And then again, just kind of a little bit about Go Fish. If you're new to who Go Fish is, you can see here we've gotten a lot of accolades over the years, but I think most importantly to us, our clients trust us to solve real challenges for them, whether it's their online reputation or getting more visibility online or getting more leads. We really design our work around making a tangible difference for our clients and for their business goals. So that's us. Let's pop into the questions and see what we can answer for you guys. Patrick, I see yours. Are there any other specific monitoring tools you'd recommend for search results outside of Google Alerts? Anna, does anything come to mind for you there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think Google Alerts are definitely great. They're free. There are some certainly other like paid similar type alert type tools. Like Ahrefs alerts comes to mind as another option, but you would need a paid Ahrefs account to see those or set those up. We also have some proprietary tools that we've developed for our clients at Go Fish that use different SERP APIs to track search results week over week and different based on location and query. So that's something that we've kind of developed in-house that we leverage for our clients. So yeah, I think that those are great tools. Also, wanted to share, we did put together on our blog 7 free online reputation management tools for both for search results and other tools as well. So I'll pop that in the chat for everyone here if you're interested in checking out this blog post. It's a great resource to get some other ideas for free tools that might help you with your ORM work.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great article. Another question we got is, how long does it typically take to see improvements once you start working on your ORM?
That's a great question. Yeah, so ORM is definitely, similar to SEO, often a longer term strategy. And, as I showed in the example client that we worked with, we've been working with them for over 4 years. And I generally like to say that we start to see improvements. We like to start seeing improvements in the first 6 to 12 months, really hoping to have a few kind of like key or, critical wins within those first 6 months of work on ORM. And then really starting to see like more of the fruits of your labor come into play within that 12-month mark. Especially if there's anything like negative that you're working on trying to combat when it comes to your ORM strategies. If you're trying to, maybe suppress a negative result or improve a negative star rating. Generally hope to see kind of some steady improvement at about 12 months of work. And then of course, just continuing on building on that over time. And once that's in place, the best ORM strategies are really about kind of like safeguarding that reputation and continuing to, build that fortress, if you will, to prevent any other future negative content or reviews from taking over and further hurting your brand.
Awesome. I have one more question over here. If there's negative press that's showing up in the search results, so like articles, negative articles, is there a way to push that down?
Yes, another great question. So yeah, that really goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about too with those ORM strategies. But yes, that is a lot of what our team does and works with our ORM clients on, is suppressing anything negative that might show up in search results. We use a lot of different tactics to do that, primarily centered around creating new content, optimizing existing content, and essentially working to get more positive content showing above that negative content, thus pushing it further down, page 1 if it's ranking on page 1, and ultimately getting it off the first page onto the further pages in Google so that it's not something that customers or potential customers are seeing when they're searching for your brand name.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you, Anna. And thank you all again for attending today's session. I think we'll wrap up there. And we do a lot of webinars. So we look forward to seeing you hopefully at a future webinar, and hope you all have a great day. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.